You know that specific smell of a VIP lounge at 2 in the morning. It is a cocktail of desperation, spilled expensive liquor, and perfume that costs $400 an ounce, but still smells like a funeral home cover-up. That was my office. I was standing behind the velvet rope of the Zenith Lounge, wearing a black uniform designed to make me look like furniture with a pulse. The heavy bass from the main floor was vibrating through the soles of my cheap rubber shoes, not the designer heels I used to wear when I actually owned a place like this. That is the thing about nightlife. It remembers your face, but it forgets your name the second your credit limit drops. Then she walked in, Regina Harrington. She glided like she was on a conveyor belt made of other people's money. She was wearing a white mink coat, and her eyes were scanning the room for someone to victimize. That someone was me. "Check my coat, sweetie," she said. The coat hit me in the chest before I could even raise my hands. It was heavy, reeking of cold air, and that distinct metallic scent of new money that has not learned manners yet. I caught it because instinct is a hard thing to kill. My fingers dug into the fur. "You dropped a hanger last time," Regina sneered, not looking at me. She was admiring her reflection in the DJ booth window. "If you ruin the lining, I will have it deducted from your whatever it is you earn. Tips. Peanuts." I did not say anything. I just tagged the coat. Ticket number 666. If she noticed the irony, she was too busy checking her teeth in the glass. I watched Regina strut into the VIP section, bypassing the security guard. Brock, who gave her a nod. Everyone gave her a respectful nod. She was the wife of George Harrington, the tech chief executive officer whose company Nexus had just acquired half the downtown district. In this ecosystem, Regina was an apex predator. I was just part of the scenery, but even the small creatures have a way of clogging the engines if they know how the machine works. 2 years ago, I was not holding coats. I was the one throwing them. I owned the Onyx Club, 3 blocks down. It was sharper, darker, cooler. We did not let people like Regina in because they ruined the vibe. They treated the staff like background characters in their personal video game. I had a strict policy against arrogance, and Regina Harrington was the chief offender. I remember the first time I denied her entry at the Onyx Club. She looked at me like I had spoken in tongues. "Do you know who my husband is?" she had hissed. "I do not care if your husband is the king of the world," I had replied. That was my mistake. Not the denial, which was a pleasure, but underestimating how much free time a bored trophy wife with a vindictive streak has. Now I stood in the corners of the Zenith Lounge, watching her hold court. She was sitting on a tufted leather banquet that I knew had not been deep cleaned since 2019. She was snapping her fingers at a waitress, Elena, who was putting herself through law school and did not deserve to be treated like a servant. "More ice," Regina barked. "And tell the bartender this vodka tastes like tap water. I want the bottle opened in front of me." I adjusted my earpiece. "Elena," I murmured into the mic, my voice flat. "Just bring her the bucket. Do not engage." Elena looked over at me, her eyes wide and grateful. I gave her a microscopic nod. That is what I was now, the hidden manager, the ghost in the machine. The management kept me around because I knew where the problems were buried, literally and metaphorically. They thought I was broken. They thought I was just happy to have a paycheck. They did not know I was taking notes. Regina laughed, a sound like glass shattering. She was leaning into a guy who definitely was not George. He was young, probably a personal trainer with gelled hair. She ran a manicured hand down his arm under the lights. "God, service here has gone downhill," she announced loudly. "It is just so pedestrian, ever since they started hiring the refugees from that failed club down the street." She meant me. She knew I could hear every word. She needed to remind me every single week that she had won and I had lost. I looked down at the fur coat in my hands. It was soft, expensive, and completely vulnerable. For a second, I imagined taking a pair of shears to the lining. Just a small snip that would unravel the whole structure. But that was petty. I was not interested in ruining a coat. I was interested in ruining the person wearing it. I hung the coat up. "Enjoy it while it lasts, sweetie," I whispered. I checked my watch. It was 2:15 in the morning. In exactly 4 hours, the Tokyo markets would open, and a very specific shell company I had registered in Delaware, called MJC Holdings, was going to trigger a purchase order that would go unnoticed by everyone except the people looking for it. Regina thought this was just another night of her reign. She did not realize she was dancing on a trapdoor, and I was just waiting to oil the hinges. The music swelled, drowning out her laughter. I could still see her mouth moving, shaping insults, shaping her own demise. I adjusted my name tag, which read Miranda, and smiled. The game was on. If you think the fur coat was the peak of it, you have clearly never worked service for the wealthy class. The coat was just the opening ceremony. The main event was the humiliation loop, a routine Regina had perfected with the efficiency of a factory line. It usually started with the drinks. Regina did not drink alcohol to get drunk. She drank to critique. She ordered a specific vodka, soda, 3 limes, a splash of cranberry in a tall glass, no straw, plenty of ice, but not too much ice. If the bartender, a sweet kid named Liam, put in 4 limes, it was a crisis. If the splash of cranberry was more of a pour, it was a tragedy. "Is it hard?" she would ask, leaning over the bar, her jewelry flashing. "Is it hard to follow basic instructions? Or is this why you are on this side of the bar and I am on this side?" Liam would stammer, apologize, and remake the drink. She would then leave a $1 bill, folded into an origami swan, a prop for her cruelty. Then there was George, her husband, the chief executive officer of Nexus. If Regina was the knife, George was the numbness that followed the cut. He did not yell and he did not make scenes. He simply did not perceive you as a human being. He looked through me like I was a smudge on a window pane. That Tuesday, George came in about an hour after Regina. He was wearing a suit that cost more than my entire liquidation settlement. He bypassed security and walked straight to the VIP section. As he passed, he released his wet umbrella in the airspace near my body, assuming I would catch it. I caught it. "Dry it," he commanded. "Right away, Mr. Harrington," I said. He paused. "Do I know you?" "I do not think so, sir. I am just staff." "Right," he said. "You look like a woman who ran a dump downtown. She is probably in rehab." He walked away. I stood holding his wet umbrella. A dump. My club had been a masterpiece, a sanctuary. I left his umbrella wet in the utility sink and pulled out my phone. While they played Masters of the Universe, I was playing chess. I logged into a private server to access real estate filings. The Zenith Lounge was owned by Nightlife Ventures, a holding company leveraged to the hilt by a panicking private equity firm. I spent 2 years studying their balance sheets and saw the cracks. They had overexpanded and needed to liquidate assets to stop the bleeding. The lounge was their crown jewel, but it was sinking. I swiped through the documents on my screen. There it was, a notice of intent to sell commercial assets. It had not been publicized yet. It was buried in a bundle of documents meant for shareholders. I switched apps to a secure messaging platform. I typed 3 words to a contact named Ghost Investor. "Green light, proceed." Upstairs, I heard Regina's voice rise above the music. I walked out of the back room to check the commotion. She was standing near the DJ booth, pointing at my feet. I had come out from behind the counter to grab a plastic bin. "Look," she shrieked, grabbing George's arm. "I told you. Look at her shoes. Are those orthopedic?" "Oh my God, George. It is like a nursing home caught fire and they wandered in here." The group around her laughed. It was a sycophantic, ugly sound. I looked down at my black, sensible non-slip work shoes. They were ugly but practical. They kept me standing for 10-hour shifts while I plotted their destruction. "Comfort is key when you work for a living, Mrs. Harrington," I said. I did not shout. I just projected using that bar owner voice that cuts through bass. The laughter faltered. Regina's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." She stepped closer, invading my personal space. "Did the furniture just speak?" I said, I looked her dead in the eye, "that these shoes have good traction, which is important. You never know when the floor is going to get slippery." "Is that a threat?" she scoffed. "It is a safety tip," I said, picking up the bin filled with empty glasses. "Floors change, management changes, everything is slippery eventually." "Fire her," Regina said to the general manager, Gordon, who had just rushed over, sweating. "Gordon, fire this worker right now." Gordon looked at me nervously. He knew I ran the inventory better than he did. He knew I covered for him when the register was short. "Regina, please," Gordon wheezed. "Miranda is reliable. It is a busy night." "I do not care," she hissed. "She brings down the value of the place just by existing." "I will go check the stock in the basement," I said to Gordon, diffusing the situation before he had to make a choice. I did not wait for permission. I turned my back on her and walked away. As I descended the stairs into the darkness of the stockroom, I could hear her screaming about disrespect. I pulled my phone out again. The ghost investor had replied, "Funding secured. Initial offer drafted. Do we want the brand name?" I stopped on the landing. The concrete walls were cold. I typed back, "No, just the building, the land, and the liquor license. Burn the brand." I looked up at the ceiling, listening to the thumping of the party above. Soon, I would be the one pulling the floor out. The humiliation was not a deterrent anymore. It was fuel. High octane, premium, unleaded hate. And I had a full tank. You need to understand something. I did not lose my club because of bad business. I did not lose it because of the economy or bad luck. I lost it because I bruised a narcissist's ego. She decided to burn my life down as a hobby. 2 years ago, the Onyx Club was the heartbeat of the city. I had built it from a rotted-out warehouse into a sanctuary of obsidian glass and crushed velvet. It was my child. I had mortgaged my house, my car, and my sanity to build it. After the night I denied Regina entry, the whispers started. It was not anything loud. That is not how women like Regina fight. They do not throw punches, they poison the well. It started with a blind item in a local luxury lifestyle blog, one that featured Regina as a major advertiser. Which downtown hotspot is actually a front for interstate money laundering? Hint, it rhymes with the Onyx Club. It was not subtle, but it was effective and devastating. Then came the concerns, whispered at charity galas. George Harrington suddenly pulled his company's corporate account. That was $50,000 a year in guaranteed revenue gone overnight. I called his assistant to ask why. I was told Mr. Harrington prefers venues that align with his family's values. Values. The man made his fortune data mining teenagers, but sure, let's talk about values. The death blow came a month later. I was in negotiations for a massive expansion loan. My investors were skittish but on board. Then the health inspector showed up, not for a routine check, but a targeted raid based on an anonymous tip about rat infestations and sewage leaks. There were no rats, there were no leaks. My kitchen was cleaner than an operating room. But the inspector, a sweaty guy who would not look me in the eye, shut us down for 72 hours, pending investigation. 72 hours is an eternity in nightlife. The closed by health department sticker on the door is a scarlet letter you never scrub off. The investors pulled out the next morning. One of them, a guy I had known for 10 years, told me off the record, "Miranda, we love you, but the word is out. You are radioactive. The Harrington family is telling everyone you are under federal investigation. We cannot be near that." I stood in the middle of my empty, beautiful club, watching the dust dance in the emergency lighting. I had $200 in my business account and a mountain of debt. I lost the lease, I lost the club, I lost the house. I remember seeing Regina a week after the foreclosure. I was leaving the bank looking like hell. She was walking out of a boutique next door. She saw me, she stopped. She did not say anything. She just smiled, a small, tight, satisfied smile. She gave a little wave like she was shooing a fly and got into her luxury sports car. That wave broke something in me. It snapped the part of my brain that believed in karma or justice or taking the high road. The high road is for people who have a car. I was walking, so I decided to take the low road, the sewer road, the road that runs right underneath their perfectly manicured lawns. That is when I went dark. I dyed my hair from its signature blonde to a nondescript brown. I stopped wearing makeup. I bought clothes at cheap discount stores. I applied for a job at the Zenith Lounge, the very place Regina and George had adopted as their new playground. Gordon, the manager, looked at my redacted resume, which listed only bar worker, and hired me on the spot. "You look familiar," he said. "I just have one of those faces," I lied. "Do not steal the towels," he replied, losing interest. For 2 years, I remained invisible, fetching coats and cleaning spills. I listened to Regina brag in the restroom about how she destroyed my club. "We called in so many favors to get that inspector out there." She giggled to a friend while I restocked paper towels. Some people just are not built for business. I was in the stall next to them, holding a roll of paper towels so tight the cardboard core collapsed. Not built for business. That phrase echoed in my head every night as I ate cheap noodles in my studio apartment. She was right. I was not built for her kind of business. Her business was influence, gossip, and inheritance. My business was operations, margins, logistics, and vengeance. I started saving every single tip. I reconnected with 2 of my old investors, the ones who had been burned when the Onyx Club went under. the ones who hated George Harrington because he had screwed them on a separate technology deal. They were angry, wealthy men. I pitched them a plan. We do not buy a club, I told them, sitting in a dark diner at 4 in the morning. We buy the dirt it sits on. We buy the debt. We buy the distribution rights for the alcohol. We surround them. One investor asked, raising an eyebrow. And then? I said, then we evict them from their own lives. The memory of that bathroom giggle is what fuels me. It is what keeps my hands steady as I initiate the next phase. Because here is the thing about people like Regina. They think power is static. They think once they have it, they keep it. They do not understand that power is fluid. It flows to whoever is willing to dig the deepest trench. I had been digging for 2 years. A shell company is a beautiful thing. It is a ghost. It has no face, no soul, and most importantly, no name attached to it that anyone would recognize. Mine was called MJC Holdings. To the casual observer, it looked like a boring real estate investment trust based out of Delaware. To me, the letters stood for Miranda's Justice Coalition. Okay, that is cheesy, but when you are eating microwave dinners, you are allowed a little internal drama. While Regina was complaining about the thread count of the napkins in the VIP lounge, I was finalizing the acquisition of the biggest weakness of the Zenith Lounge, their liquor license distributor. You see, in this state, liquor laws are archaic. Distributors have monopolies over certain territories. If you control the distributor, you control what flows into the glass, and if nothing flows, the party dies. I met my silent partners, let's call them Mr. X and Mr. Y, in the back of a 24-hour laundromat. It was the only place loud enough to mask a conversation and weird enough that no one from Regina's circle would ever be caught dead there. The paperwork for the distributor is signed, Mr. X said, sliding a thick envelope across a folding table. He was wearing a tracksuit, but the watch on his wrist cost more than the building we were sitting in. You now effectively own the exclusive rights to supply the lounge with everything from vodka to vermouth. And the building? I asked, lighting a slim cigarette. I do not smoke regularly, but I had developed a nervous habit. It gives me something to do with my hands, so I do not strangle people. The bank accepted the offer on the mortgage note, Mr. E added, grinning. He hated George Harrington with the fire of 1,000 suns. George had once publicly corrected Mr. Y's pronunciation of a wine in front of a date. Petty, yes, but rich people wars are started over less. Technically, as of this morning, MJC Holdings owns the debt. You can foreclose or you can renegotiate. I do not want to foreclose, I said, exhaling a thin stream of smoke. Not yet. I want to be the landlord. You want to charge them rent? No, I smiled, the ash flickering. I want to change the locks. Back at the club, the atmosphere was getting rowdy. It was Friday night now. The weekend crowd had mixed with the high society types, creating a chaotic energy that usually resulted in broken glass and bad decisions. I was back in uniform, clearing a table near the dance floor. Regina was there, of course. She was practically a fixture, like the chandelier or the mold in the basement. She was standing on a sofa, shoes on, waving a bottle of expensive champagne. Yes, she screamed. I love this song. I walked past her table. She looked down at me. Hey, you waitress, she barked. Yes, ma'am, take this away. She gestured to a barely touched fruit platter. The melon is soggy. It is disgusting. It tastes like poverty. I will handle that, I said, taking the platter. And bring me another bottle, she commanded. Quickly. I walked to the bar. I punched in the order, but then I paused. I pulled out my phone. I logged into the distributor portal, which was now under my control. I found the account for the Zenith Lounge. I flagged its status. Credit hold. Delivery suspended. I confirmed the change. Within 24 hours, the club would run dry. No more expensive champagne. No more imported vodka. They would be serving whatever cheap bottles were left in the basement until they paid a reconnection fee that I set. And I was going to set it astronomically high. I brought the bottle to Regina. I poured it into her glass with perfect technique. Finally, she huffed. Did you grow the grapes yourself? You are so slow. Just ensuring quality control, Mrs. Harrington, I said smoothly. Whatever, she dismissed me. Go find me a black straw. Clear ones look cheap. I walked away to get the straw. As I passed the manager's office, I saw Gordon looking frantic. He was on the phone yelling, What do you mean the delivery is suspended? We have a private event tomorrow. George Harrington is hosting a post-merger party. We need 50 cases of champagne. I slowed my pace, pretending to adjust a napkin holder. Credit hold? Gordon shrieked. We paid the bill. What new owner? What do you mean? I suppressed a laugh that would have sounded manic. The dominoes were clicking. The power was returning. It was wrapping around the foundation of the Zenith Lounge, squeezing the life out of it. I grabbed a black straw from the supply bin. I walked back to Regina. Here is your straw, ma'am, I said, placing it in her glass. About time, she muttered, taking a sip. I watched her drink. I watched her enjoy the expensive champagne purchased with her husband's credit card. I checked the time. My shift ended in 10 minutes. I had a meeting with a locksmith at 4:30 in the morning. The walls were about to close in and I was holding the remote control. Paranoia is a slow-acting poison, and I was administering it in microdoses. Saturday night, the night of George's big post-merger bash, the club was packed. But things were off. It started at the valet. I had accessed the valet software. The password was password 123 because security is a myth, and I had adjusted the priority list. I was watching from the coat check window. I saw George's luxury sports sedan pull up. He tossed the keys to the valet kid, Toby. Toby checked his tablet, frowned, and checked the license plate. I am sorry, Mr. Harrington, Toby said. The system is flagging this vehicle as restricted due to unpaid fines and towing risk. That is absurd, George screamed. Take the car. I cannot, sir. The system won't print a ticket. The insurance won't cover it. George had to park his car 3 blocks away and walk back in the rain. When he stormed in, his shoes ruined, I offered him a towel. Rough night, sir? It must be a computer glitch. Computers are tricky. He glared and stormed inside. Phase 2 was the ordering system. I tweaked the code to flag their table as non-priority, pushing Regina's drinks to the bottom of the queue. She waved her empty glass for 15 minutes before standing up. Is everyone blind? Elena, the waitress, walked past to serve tourists. Your order is not popping up, Mrs. Harrington. The system keeps pushing it back, Elena lied. I had tipped her earlier to play along. Finally, Phase 3 was the physical space. George loved his specific corner booth. But earlier, I had placed a maintenance-required order for that booth, citing structural instability in the subfloor. George marched up to his booth and found it cordoned off with yellow caution tape. Gordon, the manager, was wringing his hands. Mr. Harrington, the floor is sagging. We cannot let it sit there. Liability. Where am I supposed to sit? George demanded. We have a table near the kitchen, Gordon suggested. George's face went purple. They ended up standing near the bar, jostled by the crowd. Regina's feet hurt, and George was sweating because he refused to check his coat. He did not trust me anymore. Smart man. I went to the break room and checked my phone. A message from Audrey, the lawyer. Deed recorded. Liquor license transfer complete. You are legally the owner of the property at 440 West Street. Operating company is now your tenant, and they are in default. I smiled. It was a wolf smile. Sunday morning, 9 in the morning. I sat in Audrey's office, signing the lease termination. Nightlife Ventures was notified that their lease was terminated due to violation of the good moral character clause, based on the documented harassment of staff, and the liquor license was mine. As of noon, the club was dry. Sunday night, my final shift. The doors opened. Regina and George arrived. Regina marched up to the counter and threw her heavy silver fox coat. The heavy fur hit me in the face, the metal clasp scratching my cheek. A tiny drop of blood welled up. Oops, Regina said. Slippery fingers. Hang it up and do not steal anything from the pockets. I stood there. The fur was on the counter. My cheek stung. Today I owned the counter. I did not pick up the coat. Pick it up, she snaps. No, I said. Excuse me? Regina laughed. Did you just say no? I said no, I repeated. Are you crazy, Gordon? Get over here. The coat girl is malfunctioning. Gordon rushed over. Miranda, just hang up the coat, please. I cannot, Gordon, I said. I do not work for you anymore. You quit? Not exactly. I looked past them. My silent partner, Mr. X, leaned against the railing and nodded. I am promoting myself, I said. You are delusional, Regina spat. Brock, throw her out. Brock. The bouncer walked over and crossed his arms. I cannot do that, Mrs. Harrington. Why not? Because, said, she signs my checks now. I pulled a paperclip from under the counter and attached a notice to the fur coat. I think you dropped this. It is a formal notice of trespass and lease termination. I pointed to the wall behind the bar. The bartender pulled a cord, and the canvas covering the mirror fell away, revealing my lipstick writing, "Check your access." Below it, a digital projection showed private property, new owner, MJC Holdings. The room gasped. Phones were out, filming. "This is illegal," George sputtered. "You had a lease," I corrected. "You defaulted. I bought the debt. I am terminating services for code of conduct violations, specifically abuse of staff." I looked at Regina. "Pick it up. You are just a trespasser with bad manners now." Regina looked at George, who looked at his shoes. Slowly, Regina bent down and grabbed the dirty coat from the floor. "We are leaving," she hissed. "Escort them out," I told Brock. "And Brock, check their pockets. Make sure they did not steal anything." The crowd erupted in laughter and cheers. They were herded toward the front door, which slammed shut behind them. I turned to the DJ. "Hit it." The music blasted back. I walked up the stairs to the VIP balcony, my balcony. I sat down in the booth, ripped the caution tape off, and leaned back. My cheap shoes were pinching my toes, but for the first time in 2 years I did not care. I was the house, and the house always wins.